Recording in progress. All right, we are on the Ultimate Sports Network. This is Real Boxing Talk. As always, we have our credentialed analyst about here, ready to roll and talk about some stuff. So I had to find something. We're going to go backwards here and do what we're not supposed to do. You in the business, this is called burying the lead. So the lead ain't going to get here for a little bit. So here's what I want to start with. Coming up on the undercard of a fight that we will talk about a little bit later. Vicious Victor Ortiz against Robert the Ghost Guerrero. Now, the reason I want to talk about this, at least briefly, is because these are former champions, and these were guys that were the class of the welterweight division not too long ago. But in our recollection, it seemed like it was about 35 years ago. But not too long ago, these were the guys that we were talking about as the best welterweights out there. They both lost to Mayweather, and then from there, it didn't go too well. But is this a trend that we're seeing, or is this an anomaly? The trend being guys that are past their prime. Now, mostly they're guys in their 40s and 50s fighting MMA fighters, YouTube guys. But is this a fight where, like, hey, let's get these guys out there? Or is it just something that, what in the world's going on? Guerrero's last fight was against Devin Alexander in 17. And I'm sorry, Ortiz's last fight was against Devin Alexander in 17. And Guerrero's last fight was against Gerald Thomas in 2019. So they haven't been active, but then again, who has? So, John, I'll put it to you first. Is this a fight that these guys are trying to get back to where they were, or is it a cash grab, or what do you think?
Depends on who you're talking about. It's the old classic boxing story. It's funny you brought this one up, Frank, because I was just reading about it going, maybe I need to write something about this because it's got a lot of angles that you go, the old fighters looking for glory. I mean, a lot of cliches, but Guerrero was, I'll disagree with you on Guerrero being the class of the welterweight division. I mean, he fought Mayweather, the class of the welterweight division, but he wasn't a guy that anybody thought it was going to beat Mayweather. He was a pretty good fighter. I would say he was a good fighter. He won what? He won the featherweight, super featherweight title, and he moved up. He was pretty good. And Ortiz, see, to me, Ortiz always looked like a guy who had more natural ability than a lot of guys, but there was always something wrong. You know, people always attacked his heart because of the Berto fight, and before that, he looked like he was going to quit, and he did quit against Maidana years ago. Remember? And then when he quit against Josecito Lopez, he got his jaw broken. I mean, he's a quitter. He's all this. He's a head case. The guy, he's one of those people that you probably have met in your life that you think, wow, that guy is so talented, but he can't seem to get it together completely to showcase all his talent. So I would say it's more a money grab. I can't see Guerrero going for. I mean, he's talking about fighting a title fight again. When he fought Figueroa 3 or 4 years ago, he got knocked out in 2 rounds.
Right.
Okay. 3 or 4 years ago. He's won 3 in a row now, so that's obviously helping him. Good for him. But when he fights somebody who can swat pretty hard, he could be in trouble. He could be in trouble against Ortiz. Dude, we just don't know what he's got anymore. And too bad they didn't fight years ago. Then it would have been, 6, 7, 8 years ago. And it would have been a very intriguing fight. But to me, because I like this kind of stuff, it's still intriguing. Because they've still got talent. They're just like shadows in a way of what they once were. But they both have a hell of a lot of pride. So I expect a good fight. Ortiz always comes to fight. Guerrero likes to slug now. He used to be a boxer puncher. Now he likes to just get in the center of the ring and throw bombs. So I like that you brought this one up first, because even though barely anybody's talking about it or laughing about it, I think it has the possibility of being a really good fight. Typical of some cards in Las Vegas, there aren't really any other names on that card. It's a big card. I mean, it's an all-dayer for sure. But there's really none that jump out at you where you go, oh, yes, that's a good preliminary fight. I can't wait. This one is intriguing. So, yeah, back to your original question. I think it's all of the above. I think Ortiz is 4 years younger. He's 34, right? Does that mean anything? They both haven't fought very much. Ortiz hasn't been fighting very much for the last 5 or 6 years. He had those legal problems that got dropped. Good thing. I mean, he was accused of rape and all kinds of things, and it all got dropped. So that's good. You know, innocent until proven guilty. We'll leave that alone. So it got dropped. They couldn't prove it. Whatever. So he's. You know, I always wish that he had fought Brandon Rios because Brandon Rios hated his gut. So that would have been that would have been a real grudge match. But so yeah, it's a mixed bag of a lot of things, Frank. That's why I'm having a hard time narrowing it down exactly what it is. I would say of the guys who are talking about going further and prolonging, I think it's more Guerrero. He's talking about that, and he's the older guy. He's won 3 in a row, so maybe he's thinking, look, I still got something left. And, you know, we'll find out Saturday.
Well, Charles, over your right shoulder, I can see the credential from the Mayweather-Guerrero fight that you attended. When you saw Guerrero fight Mayweather, or actually, what was the lead up to that? And give the people an idea. I kind of think I remember, but give the people a lead up of this guy. Is he a legit guy? And then what do we see from the fallout of that?
Yeah, well, I think today people were thinking that he was legit, but the question is, he was stepping into deep waters. And,
right.
You know, when you fight Mayweather at that time, who was pretty much in his prime or was in that mode, it was like, let's take a wait and see approach. And there were so many people that were like that. Ortiz, as you can see over my shoulder as well, I went to that fight as well. Ortiz was like that. Canelo, everybody was always trying to think about what they could do in deep waters. So Guerrero came in with a fighting chance, if you will. And I mean, he gave a great effort, but it wasn't enough. It just shows you the difference between a decent, good fighter and greatness. And I've always said that. And I think the same thing with Ortiz. People always say, well, Mayweather fought this dude, he fought this dude, but he made everybody look ordinary. But to get into your point, Guerrero was a solid guy. You know, he had pop, he could fight, he had an entertaining, crazy dad. You know,
right.
Promotions and whatnot. But I think now that was then, long time ago. I remember that fight a long time ago. I was a lot younger, a long time ago. Anyway,
I remember too. I was there too, Charles.
And even though this is a coincidence, when I thought about it, as soon as you came on there, it's like I saw both of those things. Like, okay, we got to talk about it now. So if you were to take the Guerrero that you saw, I'm trying to point in the right direction, and the Ortiz that you saw, at that particular point in time, who's the guy that you'd say, okay, they've got a better shot against each other?
Ooh.
As you said, Mayweather made them both look bad, but
yeah, I would say at that time, talent-wise, and it's just me, I might shock John with this one. Talent-wise, I liked Ortiz a lot, what he brought to the table. I thought he could hurt people.
I agree. I thought talent,
I thought he could really, in the right situation, you go, this dude, if he on a second tier, maybe, definitely on the third tier, he could be dominant.
Right.
But and Guerrero was, he was, the ghost and whatnot. He came out and everybody loved him. But I think I would look at Ortiz talent-wise.
Yeah.
But the problem I would have had is the mental state. And that's just what it is. Ortiz, you just didn't know where he was coming from. You didn't know if he would focus on things. You just didn't know. And it was a lot of unknowns. But talent-wise, I would be looking at Ortiz all day, but you didn't know what dude was gonna come up. It was like, does he have a nervous condition? Does he have some mental issues?
Right.
Is it schizophrenia? I mean, you just never knew. One time you come out, fight a guy, look real good. Then he come out and you go, do you even want to box? And he's like, yeah. You just didn't know. But talent-wise, I would say Ortiz. But then my reality aspect of my mind would say Guerrero, because Guerrero was going to give you all. He's going to be about business, and if his dad was in the corner, he wasn't going to let him do anything else but that. He was going to give a hell of an effort. So I would have to go with Guerrero from the mindset. But getting back to that point of where they're at right now, what kind of fight it is, I got to be straight up with you. It's cool. That's what they want to do. But I got to throw it back in the entertainment realm, man. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I mean, it's more serious than I think than Roy Jones and Tyson, because I think these guys still have some pop left and they do want to fight. But I still got to look at it as entertainment. And if I'm looking at it, I don't want to pay for this. If I'm pay-per-view fan, I don't want to pay for this. You want to just show this to me on regular TV, or I can catch it on a stream, I'll watch it all day. But I think that's the thing that we need to, I think the promoters are not going to do it because they're trying to sell tickets. But I think we as the media or the people that really have a clue and are honest with the fans of boxing, we need to be straightforward with them that this is something that you probably don't want to pay for and demand better because they deserve better. So no disrespect to them guys, or I can't say that, but just trying to keep it real with those guys trying to make money. I'm fine with it, but I don't think people should have to pay for this because of the factor that boxing fans deserve better. There's so much more, we said before, better fights out there for them to see. And then what about, again, as we always say, about pitting together some up and coming talent so we can really see what's still available in these divisions. That's what I think I love to see on these undercards. So I can see a Manny Pacquiao for the first time in life and then watch him grow to go, damn, you remember, Frank, when we saw that guy the first time?
Right.
Those are the things they need to do because there's a lot of talent still out there, despite what some people may say.
And stop grooming people, put them in with somebody. If you get knocked out or knocked off the path, you get knocked off the path. But don't give me the guy that's 12-0 against the guy that can't fight. Give me the guy that's 12-0 against somebody that's 11-0, that kind of thing. Well, as we've decided to name the show Real Boxing Talk, thank you. That was Real Boxing Talk. So now my part of that is, this is what you said, Vicious Victor Ortiz earned that nickname sometime. And if you want to watch the highlights, yeah. You want to watch the lowlights? No. So there were parts of, as you said, that guy when he showed up, boom, boom, boom. Wow, what was that? But there were few and far between as he got up in the ranks. So okay, now.
Frank, can I add something? Yeah, I was just gonna say, see, to me, I tend to look at guys' careers and see Robert Guerrero, whatever happens on Saturday, I think he can look back and go, I did everything I could. You know, a guy says, I got everything I could out of my talent.
Right.
Yeah, and I don't think Victor Ortiz did.
Can say that.
I think he had more to show. I mean, I remember I was there. I wasn't there for the Ortiz fight. I got to say this. The Guerrero fight with Mayweather, I was in media row, and Guerrero was talking about, he's not going to throw that lead right against me. He's not going to throw that lead right. Mayweather comes out, throws the lead right, bam, fight's over.
Yep. Over.
Okay. Guerrero chased him for 12 rounds, barely even laid a glove on him. It was. I remember saying it was a majestic show. I compared Mayweather to David Copperfield, who was performing there in Vegas. I said he's just too damn good for these guys. And Ortiz, I think Ortiz was giving Mayweather actually a little bit more of a fight. Not that he was winning and we know what happened in the fourth round when he forgot the cardinal rule about always protecting yourself.
Right.
And he was fighting hard against Mayweather. He even might have hit him a couple times. He might not have, I don't remember him winning a round or anything. It seemed more competitive to me than the Guerrero fight. That could be just my memory's not good on that, but it was very intense in there. The Guerrero fight, like I said, after the first round, it was over. Guerrero kept trying. Mayweather just was too good. It's just one of those things where you're going against a guy going, I'm never going to beat this guy. I mean, I just can't beat him. He's too damn good. So that's the thing that I'm always going to think about Victor Ortiz is, what if? You know, and you have a lot of that with people, or whatever. They have all these talents and they never really get to show it, or something happens, or with Ortiz's case, he's a head case. And when he's 50, he's probably going to be going, man, if I had been able to get myself together.
Right.
So that's unfortunate. And Guerrero, like I said, Guerrero won't even bother. I think Guerrero has no regrets. He's done it. He's been a two-time champion. He's got everything he's ever got. He made a lot of money. He's got a nice family. I mean, it's a fight between two different types of things. And so, it's interesting.
And I think I'll go along with what you're saying. I think in the Ortiz-Mayweather fight, and I'm not calling it a cheap shot because it was within the parameters of what was going on, but had that been the Guerrero fight, I'm not sure Mayweather went, I think Ortiz was in the fight enough where Mayweather was engaged, where he said, I'm going to take advantage. We'll have to take advantage of it. If it had been Guerrero, I don't think it would have been as engaged in the fight because I don't think Guerrero was offering any kind of threat. That's just my way of looking at it. Charles, did you see it that way live, or is that kind of he just got clocked because he got clocked? He wasn't paying attention.
Well, no, I mean, I don't think he was paying attention, but I think part of it was when you watch the fight, you start to see Ortiz starting to do might have been some what we consider dirty tactics, you know, and you remember that.
Right.
He was doing some things, holding and hitting and just doing some other stuff. And, you know, the whole whatever premature and trying to kiss him and all kind of whatever that was going on.
Right.
But whatever it was, he was doing some things that Mayweather thought was a little bit obscure and out of the box. So when the opportunity opened up where he was trying to say, I'm sorry, and I'm sorry for doing what I did, and the referee was like, box. When he said box, Mayweather's like, oh, his hands are down, bang. Everybody,
right.
People were on him for that, but hell, that John said the one rule they said, protect yourself at all times. So he got knocked out. But I think it was the shenanigans that Mayweather, although I do agree with you, he was more of a worthy opponent. He was more busier. But I think his so-called obscure antics kind of pissed Mayweather off. So it's like, okay, we're fighting and then you're kind of trying to cheat too. I'm knocking your ass out if I can.
Then he's kissing him and he keeps trying to kiss him. I'm like,
weird. That was weird.
What is this, Dancing with the Stars? You know, that's what I was like.
You just, man, I don't know what the hell is going on here.
What are you doing? I mean, I laughed when he knocked him out. My first reaction was I laughed. I said, I don't blame Mayweather a bit. You know, get away from me, buddy. What are you doing?
And the funny thing was at the fight, you had the media types around. Everybody, oh, you see?
I know, I remember.
I was like, man, shut your up, because what are you talking about? That's boxing.
I remember.
And I'm sitting there going like, everybody like, see, that's why Mayweather, he always cheating. I said, anybody else would have done the same thing.
Right.
I even had to write an article defending Mayweather because of the uproar. And so I certainly remember what you said, Charles. I said, give me a break.
Yeah, that was,
you know, over the time. Did what he had to do, and that's the thing. And he knocked him out. Ortiz didn't complain.
No.
So there you go.
Ortiz, but that's Ortiz, because I mean that's the thing. It comes back to the mental standpoint. You would think like, oh, you see how he hit me? Ortiz was like, okay, I'm gonna move on with my life. What's next? I mean, God bless you. You just don't know what to do, man. God bless you. You just don't know what's going on with it. You wish him the best, but you like, is boxing really what you need to be doing? I don't know.
Pretty much all he knows.
Well, we're looking at how fights get hyped up, and we get more into what we think is going to happen because of the hype, and then the reality is different. For example, we were waiting to hear what was going to happen with Gary Russell, or Gary and Andre Antonio, whatever, and what? We got nothing from, well, I don't know about nothing, but again, circumstantial situations, I get that. But that didn't pan out like, well, John, explain real quick what happened, because I didn't even see it.
Well, I didn't either, to be honest. I just read about it later that it was stopped in the first round, I think due to a butt, and very disappointing. It was a big showcase for Gary Russell, Antonio Russell, and so he was very disappointed. Everybody was disappointed. From what I've read, they're already regrouping, and they will fight again as soon as Rodriguez's eyes healed. He has problems with his eyes. He's had around his eyes. Had another fight stopped, so he's got some major scar tissue, I believe, going on around there. I'm not positive though, so I don't want to say too much. But the fight was stopped early. Supposedly, they're going to reschedule as soon as Rodriguez is ready, and they'll be back in the ring. But he was really disappointed, and I don't know. I was doing other things at that particular moment. I was disappointed that I didn't get to, because I wanted to see him. I was curious because we were talking about how talented he is. And this was a big step up fight for him. So we'll see him again soon. He's not like his bigger brother. He's not going to be gone until 2022. So he'll be back in.
Right.
Yeah, he'll be back in pretty soon from what I understand. So that part's good, but that's disappointing. Yeah.
Okay. Now, Charles, we also had the Casimero Rigondeaux fight, which, okay, it was supposed to be Casimero Donaire. We know that. And it wasn't. What was it?
What was it?
Well, what was it? It was what they call a snooze fest, right? And part of it was you had a guy that wanted to fight, right? And Casimero wanted to come after. He was really fired up and pumped up. And then you had the classic Rigondeaux who came out and was himself. We mentioned that before, the factor that could this young man come after him and get him and be more active, which he was. But Rigondeaux was like, you know what? I'm gonna keep you at bay, buddy. And he was crafty about it. It was boring as hell, but he kind of imposed his will on the fight. So oftentimes when you saw the fight, you're saying to yourself, who's winning this fight? You know, I looked at it, I was like, a couple rounds. I was like, okay, well, because he's not doing what he wants to do, you know, and that's a Casimero. But it was interesting to a point. If you like, kind of like watching a strategic type of game where you go back and forth, Connect Four, or what is that? What was the Battleship game?
Yeah.
Yeah, you know, something.
I was going to say Stratego, right?
Yeah, Stratego, right. So you have like, you know, 9-4, something like that. But anyway,
yeah,
it was strategy oriented.
Playing with no bombs, right?
It was theater, you know, and that's what it turned out to be. In fact, after a while, you're saying, who's going to win the fight? And that's what it came down to. It was straight theater. Unfortunately, it was tough for the fans because the fans were booing.
Right. Right.
They saw what was going on. He said, bring it out, put his hand out there, and then he'll pull it back, and then he hit him, and then he'll step to the side. And you could just see that the opponent was coming full bore trying to get after him, but it was like they were dancing. It's like, I want to dance fast. No, baby, this is a slow jam. You know. So the slow jam pretty much went out for the majority of it as far as the style was concerned. But in the end, it was just one of those things you just kind of go, damn, we couldn't get better than this. But hey, the hype brought it up. You had an older veteran guy that's been around the way, seasoned. Might think he might have a little bit left. And you had a younger guy who just wanted to go in there and tear his head off. And they danced. And they danced for a long time, but it was a slow jam.
Was it more, it's not who won, but who lost?
I don't even think that, though. It was one of those things that I don't even think it's who lost, because usually you would bring it out, you would say, oh, we're going to see where he's at. I mean, right now for me, it's a wrap, bro. It's a wrap. I mean, he can't really, I don't expect any more greatness out of him. I'm not saying he can't fight and beat some guys. I think he can, but I'm not going to go, oh, yeah, he's on his comeback trail trying to become champion again. He's ready to fight, to fight Lomachenko again. No, nah, bro. In my opinion, I mean, he's kind of kept out. He's kind of like, and I don't even want to say that man's name because he might be watching. But anyway, he's kind of like a fighter that is trying to get his career back, but I think his best days have passed him by.
Yeah.
But he's still a name. He's still an attraction, and you still will want to see him fight on the premise that he may have something left. But we haven't seen that. We haven't seen that greatness in a while. How about that?
And they're not the same type of fighter. I'm not going to try and put that together. But it kind of reminds me of Glenn Johnson, that he's going to get a fight. He may not get a fight that you expect him to win, but he's still part of the equation. So if you're up and coming or you're sliding out, you need a fight, hey, call Glenn Johnson. He'll be in shape. He'll be ready to play. Whether you expect him to win or lose, or he's going to, he wasn't going to get a decision. We know that. But we still call Glenn Coffee Johnson because he's there. I have a feeling that Rigondeaux can still get fights just because he's a name. He's not one of those guys that he's not going to be out of shape. Is it a fight that you want to watch? No. But if you need somebody to fill in or whatever, yeah, it's a guy. If you're having problems getting fights and you can't match a fight, call up him. He'll fight you. So that's what I see. And John shaking his head.
The thing that was frustrating for me is to me that fight was winnable for Rigondeaux.
Right.
I mean, some people even thought he won it, but I was watching it going, he's 40 years old. He's in great shape.
Right.
My headline was Rigondeaux won the dance contest but lost the fight. and because he can still, he can dance, you know, and the greatest used to say, I'm going to dance. What are you going to do? I'm going to dance. But the difference was the greatest would stop and pop.
Right.
And it looked to me that, Casimero's got his hands down. And I'm thinking, Rigondeaux, come on, man. You proved that at 40 years old, you can beat this guy. This guy isn't that good. I hope that, well, I don't hope, well, it's out of hope. If Donaire ever fights Casimero, I think Donaire will clean his clock from what I saw, you know, unless he gets caught. But Rigondeaux, I'm going to say, I'm listening to Ronnie Shields at one point yelling at Rigondeaux, and I'm going right on. I mean, come on, you know, it's right there. You already showed you can outmove, you can outmaneuver him. You got him boxing, you got him beat. Okay, you showed him you're fast still. Now it would be like if Lomachenko had done that for 12 rounds against Teofimo, and you're like, okay, he showed he's fast still, but he didn't throw any punches. Same kind of thing. So how can he win the fight? Here, all he had to do was flurry every now and then. Even in the last 10 seconds of the round, he might steal a round or two. He would have won the fight, and everybody would have been moaning and groaning, but he still would have won. And then the other thing is that he had been fighting, he had been throwing more punches in his last few fights. You know, it wasn't a big surprise that he did this, but real quick, this is where this whole thing about running and fighting, and I get angry when people say he ran the whole fight. See, in a sense, he did. He did run the whole fight because he didn't throw punches. But don't throw a guy like Muhammad Ali in there and say that. Well, that's what he used to do. He used to run. No. He moved during the fight, but then he would start throwing punches. Watch the Frazier Ali fight first, if anybody has any doubt about moving away and then bam, opening up with some shots. If Rigondeaux had done that just for a few seconds more, maybe that's an exaggeration, but just a little bit more in every round, he'd have won. That's the thing I don't get about him. He was being very obstinate about the way he wanted to fight, and nobody could get through to him to get him to do it. So he's only got himself to blame. And the only way, see, I disagree with you guys in the sense the only way he gets a fight is if he says, okay, look, I know I was wrong in my last fight. I should have thrown more punches. And I promise you, this fight, I will.
Well, and I think that's what'll happen. It's going to come around. It's like, okay, someone in the camp is going to say, we did wrong. We'll do better next time.
You better.
That's what you have to do, right? Okay, now this is our little survey section here. I'm going to ask a quick question. It doesn't mean anything, no matter what the answer is, but I'm curious. Did anybody watch the minimum weight fight? Even after we talked about it.
No, didn't see it.
Why did we not watch the fight?
I was doing some yard work at the time the fight was going on, so I missed it. I thought about it later. I went, oh man, those tiny guys were fighting that. Right. I missed it. Gosh darn it.
Mr. Farmer?
I think I was a little busy. I think I was entertaining company. But
okay.
But with that being said, I thought about it because I even went and looked it up because I told you I wanted to see who was fighting at that weight. So I looked it up and I was like, well, maybe when it comes on, I'll be available. And it just kind of slipped by me. So it's their fault, but they didn't promote it enough. How about that?
Yeah, okay. Now, I'm going to say something that I don't normally do. I agreed with you. I didn't see it either. and my explanation is as simple as yours. It didn't register to me to turn it on when it was time to turn it on. I'm like, oh, even after we talked about it just a few days before that, it didn't see. So the reason I asked that question is because this is kind of the way we go with things now. Even though it was in our frontal cortex or rear cortex, whatever cortex we're talking about, we still didn't care enough about it to make an effort to watch it. That's not their fault. And that may be the promotion's fault, but we have a perception of what we want to see and what we care about. Now, if we had thrown a name in there, as Charles mentioned, maybe a Michael Carvajal or something like that, we would have made it an effort to see it. So I guess, and this is our little commentary section, that it's give us a reason to watch and we watch. If we don't, we don't. Remember, there was a time there where no one was watching the welterweights really until it became Duran, Leonard, blah, 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 blah. You know, it was almost all heavyweights. And then there was a time where we weren't really watching middleweights until he gave us somebody to watch. So, and also it's promoted that way as well. You know, it's on Wild World Sports, it's on HBO. When they're there and that's the main card or that's something. So my take on it is they didn't make us watch it, so we didn't watch it, and then we don't follow it. So, Charles, as I'm saying that, we're promoting fights that are coming up and promoting fights that have happened in the past. Is that the mentality of let's forget that you got all those credentials behind you there? Is that the mentality of what we see as sports fans? If you give us a reason to watch it, or you give us the kernel of this may be good, then we find the Pacquiaos and we stick with it. We find the Sugar Shane Mosleys and we stick with it. You give it to us in a package in which we can digest it, then that's how they keep on going. Is that what it is, or is it just lightning in a bottle sometimes?
No, I think that's what you have to do. I mean, that's how I learned about it. I mean, I had to be honest. I was all Ali, like John was all morning, all night, all day. You know, all that. That was my thing. But in order to really understand more and more, I had to expand my horizons. But they had to share with me what was going on. I mean, let's be real. I ran into the Pacquiao Marquez fight on a fluke. I was watching HBO. I just turned it on, and I'm like, "What is this?" You know, and I'm like, "These little dudes, you know, they have
boxing on that.
These little dudes, they can't fight." And I watched them first round, and I saw the one Marquez little dude. Not trying to disrespect anybody, little dudes. But anyway, I watched the first round, and I watched Marquez get knocked down 3 times. I was like, and he still got up. Who is this? And then I was intrigued by, I know he's going down this next round. And before you know it, I'm involved, and I'm like, wow. And years later, come to find out there are definitely 2 Hall of Famer boxers that I just happened to run into. But getting back to your question, I think you have to feed the fans. There are still enough boxing fans out there that want to see good action. And I know we talked about heavyweights, we talked about the welterweights now and middleweights, but I think that's how you not just lightning in the bottle, how you have to plant seeds for them to grow. Because you look now at somebody like a Shakur Stevenson that's coming up, that one of my favorite young fighters. So all the talent at 135, 140, right, moving that are going to become the up and coming welterweights down the line. They're going to be the guys you're going to be looking for. The time is now is to feed the fans. Let them in on the secret now. And not only that, the boxing promoters have to start making matches that make sense. Right. We need to start seeing these guys match up with one another. Pandemic's over almost, anyway, till the second wave starts. Anyway, whatever. But however, this is the time with the fans coming back. You need to start putting some folks in the ring so people start to get that buzz, because that's how you build it. It was built that way when we were coming up. It continues to be built that way if they do it right. But right now, I'll say this, I'll get off this very quickly. The point of it is there are a lot more distractions to take you away from boxing than there ever were before. You know, you almost had to imagine listening to a fight on the radio, right? That's how desperate we were to hear Muhammad Ali fights. I remember that. There was no TV. You wanted to hear it, some station out of New York, you hopefully had your antenna up so you could catch it as it was coming by, the wave frequency. So with that being said, we were desperate. That's how much we were involved. Now with the social media and everything, people, their attention span is very low. So you have to give them as much information, as you said, as possible. If we had known that these little men, these smaller men were fighting, we knew the time. They kept telling us in the date, and then he threw a microcarbon in there. I was like, oh, that's at 4:30. I need to make it my business to watch it. They don't do that because everything's so quick. And I say this quick. I still think there is a need for solid journalism, solid writing, solid information basis. We don't want to overwhelm you or whatever, but there is a need. And I think if you do it right, people still will come. They will support you. Not everybody, but I think there's still a need for it because a lot of people are trying to become reporters without any journalistic background or writing experience because they have a damn phone in their hand. That's not how it's done. It's a lot of fly-by-night people making a lot of money. I ain't mad at y'all, but I'm just saying, I think that if you do it the right way, there's still some people out there that want to see something real, and then that's going to help boxing grow. I know that's a long ass equated opinion, but it's what it is.
And in all that, I think you took a slap at me, but anyhow. Seriously. Yeah,
Let me just say this real quick. What did you say? I just made a statement. It was a large statement. If you feel some kind of way, because that hits you in the face, guess what? My bad.
That's on me, right? Yeah.
The shoe, Frank, if the shoe fits.
Put that
and it's
on.
a big shoe. So look, it's a size 16, so it's got to fit.
Okay.
But all right, John. So here's the conundrum here, and he hit it on perfectly. It's not possibly it's not just the promoters. It's not just the matchmakers. Sometimes it's people like us because we put it out there last week and we didn't watch it. Not only did we not watch it, it was kind of like, oh, crap, this is something that we should look at. But we didn't think about it until right then when we were recording the show. I just happened to see it when I was on the card. There's a championship fight. Well, what is that? So that's something that we have to be a little more cognizant of as journalists, to say, if we're going to grow this sport the way it should be grown, we have to grow it. Now, I'm going to throw a couple of names at you that I know that you know, but people other than yourself and a few other people will go, I've heard of them, but I'm not sure. Bob Foster, Danny Little Red Lopez. Guys that didn't get any pub, or not a lot of pub, and we didn't really find out that they were the class of what they were doing when they were doing it. Now, we're dating ourselves when we mention this, but still, they're the class of what they were doing when they were doing it. Then we discover people, and I'm going to look at Wide World of Sports, CBS Sports Spectacular, guys like Wilfred Benitez, Alexis Arguello, guys that we got to see fight because they were there to be seen. We don't have that now. And I'm not saying Wide World of Sports could exist now. I'm not saying that. That's as Charles mentioned, the way the landscape is set up, that's kind of tough. But where are those guys that we would have never known Alexis Arguello? Arguello prior may not have ever happened if we did not see Alexis Arguello fighting before that. From Nicaragua, who's watched this guy? But he kept showing up on my screen. I kept watching him. Benitez Leonard may never happen if I never saw Benitez on my screen before Leonard. Why would Leonard fight this guy? He's a champ. Oh, big deal. It's not a big deal. But it was because we saw Benitez come out as, a 12-year-old or whatever it was, and come out and become champion. Okay. So what do we do on this end other than just what we've been talking about? Okay, so we've got Fury Wilder. We've got Joshua and this. How can we do we have to have special programs? Do we have to kind of have a block of something else for the up-and-comings? Guys that are real sports fans, real fight fans, come listen to this segment because we're going to give you the 411 on the new thing or the better thing or the different thing. Or as we just hope that it's all going to work out. Because as we said, we have undercards that aren't promoted, but they're guys we should know about. As Charles said, how do we know about Pacquaio and Marquez? Well, there it was. We saw it. And then word of mouth got us there. But should we have known about it ahead of time? Long-winded question, but what can we do?
You know, I was listening to you closely and thinking about what we were just talking about, like the mini flyweight division and how these guys, suddenly we know these guys. We knew Carbajal because we knew him before he turned professional, a lot of people. But I remember hearing about a guy that was undefeated, and we saw him late in his career by the name of Ricardo Lopez, who was a mini flyweight, and he finally started to get the ink that he deserved when he was 45-0 and been champion for like 10 years. And by the time we saw him, he was probably past his prime. And I remember when he fought in his 48th fight, they finally were showing him on cable on HBO, I believe. And he looked like he actually lost that one, but it was a draw. And he ended up 51-0, one draw with 38 knockouts. Does anybody ever say anything about Ricardo Lopez?
Right.
So the point is that, and I'll answer your question, those little guys, it's really hard for the little guys to get the notice until they're doing something pretty spectacular. And then they might not even get it until the end of their careers. You know, Alexis Arguello, he was known, he worked his way up. I remember I first heard about him when he knocked out Ruben Olivares. And that's the key, is that those guys, they do something spectacular, and then they also have the right people behind them. And so that's the key. And then the press picks up on it. So it's like a springboard. Andy Lopez and Bob Foster, I remember when Bob Foster knocked out Dick Tiger in 1968 to win the light heavyweight title. And that was when, to me, he became more of a famous in my household, because he couldn't beat any heavyweights, but he was the light heavyweight champion. And that would be the thing of his, that was the thing of his career. So a lot of it, it's hard, Frank, because, and then Danny Little Red, you know, I'm in California. He was in Southern California. I happened to have a grandfather who loved him, and he would send me news clips. So I was always on what was going on with Little Red. So it's a combination of everything, I think. You know, we always talk about marketing in boxing is so poor these days. It is. It wasn't super great in those days as far as that goes. Everything was so much more narrow. All it was newspaper, radio, television. Now you've got all this social media. You got all these choices. You got all this crap all over the place, all this information. So the only way to do what you're talking about, in my view, at least to get a little word out on, no matter who he is, if he's a mini flyweight, if he's a heavyweight, and he's not getting any attention, is to talk about it or write about it. Still, it's the old-fashioned way. Get a little word out. It's not going to work. It's not going to work the way it did in the 70s, 60s, and the 70s, where a big promoter might sweep in and save it. Maybe. Those guys that are good and nobody knows about it, they're the guys who fly under the radar. Those are the guys that I think it would be fun if we see somebody, if we happen to be watching a card, and we watch most of the card. I'm sure I know I do usually, except last weekend when I missed the little guys. But we should do that. We should say, look, I saw this guy fight. What do you think? And then we can discuss it. And then I say, okay, or whatever. You talk about it. I say, I'm going to write something about it. We can put it on Ultimate Sports Network too. So give somebody. That's about the only way. But nowadays, and I'm not just blaming nowadays. Back then too, you had to make your own name in a lot of ways.
Right.
Unless you were a heavyweight, pretty much, you had to. So it's complicated in a sense. It's doable if writers aren't lazy. I'm not pointing any fingers here, and do their due diligence and talk about it. Talk about, you know, if they don't mow lawns on Saturdays and miss fights with a little. Yeah. No, they do what they're supposed to do. That helps, but you know, I think that would be fun. Like this weekend, right? We've got the Pacquiao fight. If we watch it, if any of us watches it, and we watch the whole thing, and we see somebody that we go, wow, we make a point the next show to talk about it.
Or
I think that's what we can do.
Yeah, and we could also create a forum to do that. So that's part of that's what part of the network is supposed to be. Now I'm going to do something real quick, and then I'm going to jump to other stuff. It just occurred to me, Charles, I'm looking over your left shoulder here, Pacquiao Mosley, which, if anyone is paying attention to the show, that's the cover photo of the show when we post it. Okay, that's been how long now? Was that 10 years ago? I don't recall, but I think it's been something like
a while.
Yeah. Okay. Can you recall anyone on the undercard from that fight?
No.
Yeah, and that's not to say, gee, you're an old man, you need some Metamucil. It is the fact that they don't make. I'm going to step into an absolute here, and I don't like to do that. They don't normally make undercards of memorable bouts anymore. I guess that's the best way to put it. They look, the promotion of all those fights you see are, this is this guy and this guy. Or sometimes it's this guy and this guy's come along. But we forget that there are 4 or 5 other fights on the card that may be worth looking at, and this may be the up-and-coming guy. Right. And I don't think that they make it that way. And I understand, to make money, you don't promote nobodies. I understand that. But maybe, just maybe, if we can get inside, and that's something that I think we can do, talk to promoters, and not just the promoters of, Top Rank and Golden Boy. We need to start finding the promoters that are listening, that's promoting in Sioux Falls, that's promoting in, Lincolnshire or someplace, I don't know. That you got a guy that you need some pub for and that we need to see, let us know. Let the action be the judge of whether we need to see him or not the promotion of the fight or of what's going on. So we'll get into that. Okay. One last thing of what happened last week, and now my brain just dropped out of my head. Charles, what's the other fight that we wanted to see that we saw that Moloney, Franco? Sorry about that. It just slipped my mind completely. If I'm not mistaken, did somebody call that fight right?
Who would that be, Frank?
I don't know. I don't recall. I don't watch the shows after we record them, so I'm not sure. Do you have any recollection of what you may have said would have happened in this fight?
Thank you, Frank. Yes, I do. But
and by the way,
I'm glad you asked me. I'm glad you asked me that question. But,
great question.
Yeah, but no. I just really thought, after looking at it, that Franco really had a fighting chance. I think that the majority of us fell in love with Moloney's plight. We thought he was somewhat robbed from the second fight because of the way that he was performing, and then the way that it was kind of called a draw. And we thought that was an injustice. So I think that was spot on. But the other part of it that some of us forgot is that Franco won the first fight legitimately. He won it convincingly, and he was impressive. So we're thinking about the revenge factor. And then, of course, it was easy to think about, wow, Moloney was the last guy. He was more action-oriented in that second fight. So, of course, we're going to think that way. But then I stopped back and thought about it. I said, wait a minute, hold on. Let me look at Franco and start talking about Franco. And just saying that, if anything, I thought Franco had, he had a legitimate chance to say, I really messed up. Everybody's going against me. They don't like it. They think I lost and, I got away with one. Let me take a step back, because I did win the first one, right? I did win the first one.
Right.
And I think I got a shot. So let me go back to the drawing board and redo what we're doing and see what happens. And I think the other part, too, is the factor that he was the champion. I think that had a lot to do with me thinking this guy's going to come in with a little pop. Not saying that Moloney couldn't win, because we all said there's a strong possibility, but I think because of the hype, because of the attention that it received
right
on TV, and everybody's talking about it. You got to see this again. That's marketing. But that's how you do it. And all of the hype around it about what Moloney was going to do, kind of forgot about Franco.
Yeah, we did.
Franco said, okay, all right, I'm the champ, but that's how y'all want to do me. And I think that's what he did, because he literally came in. Moloney tried to start fast, and he was looking pretty good. And Franco was like, all right, well, let me step back now. I'm going to throw this little uppercut that you don't like. I'm going to throw these other little things that you don't like. And now, after I hit you a little bit with this jab, I'm going to turn southpaw a little bit. Then I'm going to flip back around. And then I'm going to hit you with some things that you don't remember from the first fight. And I want to be first. That's the one thing Franco did. Right. He started to be first. And Moloney was like, as great as his effort was and as talented as a fighter he was, after a while, he didn't have any answers. And he was trying. I mean, this is, when you say he was fighting his butt off and giving you all he had, but it wasn't enough. And you started to see as the rounds continued on, Franco started to get that what they say sometimes when you're playing basketball, you're in a sport and what we would call somewhat not really totally unconscious, but you start to get into your groove, start feeling good, you start floating, things start moving, you're just like, man, I feel good tonight. And I think that's what Franco did. So, and he just outclassed him. I mean, you can hear Moloney's, if I get off of this, you can hear Moloney's corner literally trying to encourage and tell me what he needed to do. And they were spot on, but it didn't matter.
Just couldn't do it, yeah.
It was Franco's night that night. It just was.
Now, John, who made the better adjustments or who made adjustments from the first two fights to this one, and who didn't or didn't have to make adjustments?
Well, yeah, and it was Franco, and I remember that we said, yeah, we give Moloney the edge, but only going into the first round. Let's see what happens in the first round. And we said that Moloney would probably try to start pretty fast, but let's see what Franco does, and that's what happened. Franco adjusted. Franco figured out how to get out of the way of Moloney's jab that had done such a number on him in the second fight. And the professor showed up, and he also had Robert Garcia, who's a great trainer and a brainy guy. He knows every in and out of boxing. And Moloney's plan was to jab. And think about that. You got a plan. You're going, hey, it worked. It's going to work again. Then you find out after round two, it's not really working.
Right.
I'm not really hitting this guy. As I'm having doubts, Franco's confidence is growing. You could see it. He was like, I think I sent you guys a message. I said, Franco's too strong for Moloney. You can see it. He's not going to be deterred. He's just walking through those punches like, that's it. You can see Moloney going, I want this so, he wanted it so bad. And then, see, that was another lesson that as much as I talk about this a lot about determination and all that, you can want it really bad, but that doesn't mean you're going to win.
Yeah.
And his effort was great, but Franco just had a plan, and he really impressed me. I wasn't really surprised because, like I said, we fall in love with the last thing we saw. The last thing we saw was Moloney was beating up Franco. We forgot, like Charles said, hey, Franco is the champ here.
Right.
Franco remembered that, and he made a few tweaks, and he just administered a nice, not a beatdown. It was a very entertaining 12-round fight. Didn't knock Moloney down like he did in the first fight, but he beat him. He beat him fair and square, no doubt. No one complained, no controversy. So again, all kudos to Franco, who did what he had to do. Oh, I hate that term. But he made the adjustments to win the third fight. He did it, and it was very impressive. And forget the second fight emotionally. How, like me, I was like, oh, blah blah blah. Didn't matter. Franco went into the ring, which is his home, and left the ring with the title. He did it. Very, 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 very impressive.
Well, it's funny. There's. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Charles.
I thought one thing in there, John. For the record, though, that was you and Frank who had Moloney with the edge. I said Franco had the edge.
Did you say that?
Yeah, you got to run back. That's when it was edited. You got to come back and watch it.
Franco. See, so
that goes right. Yeah. That never made the final cut. Sorry about that. You got to get the director's cut to see that.
I think that we were still basically right, though, Charles. Whatever he edited out, we were still trying to make us look bad, but we were still basically right. He was the one who said, well, Moloney's going to win, right? And we went, not necessarily.
Now, I did bring up the point that Franco had won more rounds and won more of the.
You did say that. I remember you saying that.
So
yeah, that's true. But when you say who had the edge, who did you say?
I did say Moloney. I did, because I thought he had. And it's funny because when I was coaching, this is, and I'll try not to spend too much time on this. You had that rah coach. You gotta want it more than they do, and our team was getting beat by a particular play. Coming at halftime, you gotta want it more than they do, and you gotta have desire and we come out of the locker room. The kid says, Yeah, it's all fine and good, but how do we beat that?
Yeah.
I can want it all I want, but you haven't told me how to defend the play. I said, yeah, you're right. So you do that and have them go, oh. And then at the end of the game, see, you had desire. And the kid's like, no, they showed us how to actually beat the play.
And
That's what it is. And desire is all, everyone's got desire. That's not a big deal at all. And you can exhort all you want, but if you don't figure out how to defeat it, it doesn't make any difference. Now, therein lies the question. As John said, and he didn't, I'm putting words in his mouth, but Moloney had a hell of a plan. Plan A. Did he have a plan B?
No.
And having seen, and we brought this up with the Gotti War fight, having seen the guy before and having seen him twice, you would think that your plan A is going to be great. But since he's seen what you have to offer as well, you got to at least have a B and a C. And not to project too far down the road, but this is what I think is what's going to happen with Fury Wilder. I think Wilder's going to have a great plan A, and he might have a plan A and a half. Wilder's going to have a plan C, D, and E. I'm sorry, Fury's going to have a plan C, D, and E. Not that makes a difference because he may be on his butt by the time he gets to it. But I think that's going to be, if it goes deeper into the fight, he'll be able to make adjustments more than Wilder will, because Wilder's going to come out and go, I'm going to try and do this. If that doesn't work, I'm going to try and do something like that, and then I'm not going to have anything else. And not to blame trainers, whatever, but that's what's going to be. Anyway, we got that out. Now, speaking of something kind of like that, not a great segue, but something kind of like that. We have coming up the fight of the set. Oh, it's not the fight of the century. It's the fight of the month.
Of the week.
Fight of the hour, yeah.
Fight of the week, yeah. Fight of the card.
Our fight of the card. Are we shortchanging what this fight can be? Pacquiao Ugas. Are we shortchanging what the fight can be because it's not Spence? And are we saying it's not as important? It's for a belt. I don't know whose belt it is now because I don't know who has a belt and who doesn't have a belt. I can't figure that one out. But it's because it's still Pacquiao. It's still a title holder or title holder-ish or whatever. And this is a 42-year-old guy going in against somebody who's in supposedly his prime. Charles, is this because it's not the fight that we were planning on it being? Is this still a watchable fight? Or is it like, oh man, I'm going to put my money in my pocket and spend it on something else?
No, it's a watchable fight because I don't think a lot of people know the background of you guys' background and what he's had to endure to get over here and deal with this. So he's a fighter. He's a damn good fighter. Is he a great fighter? I'm not sure. Definitely not Spence, okay? So is it a letdown? Yes, it's a letdown. Nobody else tell you any differently. People wanted to see it. I wanted to see it. I wanted to see the fact y'all still had the magic. So yes, it's a letdown. But if you're going to have a replacement, why not have a guy like you guys who's been around? See, a lot of people don't know the background of you guys. When you think about it from you guys, we know that he fought Sean Porter and he fought him pretty well. You know, a lot of people are thinking that, well, maybe he got jobbed or it could have been a draw or something to that effect. The other part they don't know is this guy's, like he says, a bronze medalist, you know, as far as from the Olympics. You know, comes along with that way. Guy defected, he was off with top rank for 2 years, and then he got dropped by them, dropped out of boxing for 2 years. But the one caveat, I know John probably knows this, but the one caveat that really caught my attention is this. And you might say whenever it was, you call it whatever day it was, whatever time it was, he defeated Terrence Crawford in the amateurs. Yeah. So you think about it, he beat Crawford, say whenever you want to, and they weren't little boys either. So he beat Crawford, he fought Porter, and now he's fighting Pacquiao, and he's only lost 4 fights, and he thought he was going to retire from boxing after he lost 2 in a row. And he's been through hell in a handbasket, so I don't know if he's going to win, but he's no chump. He got a legitimate damn chance. And Pacquiao's 42. We expect Pacquiao to come out and beat Pacquiao. But we always say there's no guarantees. what Pacquiao we gonna see? We thought we gonna see the same Pacquiao get Jeff Horn. What the hell happened? We saw the Pacquiao we're looking for in Thurman, but we don't know. So don't just throw Ugas out there like he's some meat, somebody they just throwing out there as an easy meal for Pacquiao. The guy can fight. We'll just have to see what happens on Saturday.
Now, John, he hit right where I was going to go. If this had been promoted, and let's say that it wasn't Spence, let's say this was in place of Jeff Horn. If this had been, we signed a fight, it's you guys Pacquiao, would it have been a big deal?
Pacquiao wouldn't have taken it. He wouldn't have fought Ugas. No way. He just wants to fight all the big names now. He's at the tail end of his career. He knows. And he knows about Ugas.
Well,
Go ahead, Frank.
Well, like I said, he did fight Jeff Horn. So let's say that in that interim, it would have been, I'm fighting you guys instead of Jeff Horn.
Oh, instead of Jeff Horn?
Yeah, right.
Well, see that I'm always gonna say that Pacquiao wasn't up for that fight. You know, he went to Australia. He was way overconfident. He figured he could beat this guy with one hand tied behind his back. He learned. I still think he won. Ugas is a much better fighter than Jeff Horn on his worst day. You know, I'll say that, and I'll say that to these Ohio friends of mine. I thought Ugas beat Sean Porter. I did. I thought he deserved the decision. I watched it. I was waiting for him to say. I was disappointed because I like Sean Porter, like you guys. I was waiting for them to say, "and the new." And I totally understand.
Let me interrupt you real quick.
Sure, go ahead.
We always extol the virtues of Sean Porter, which all three of us do.
Yes.
We kind of forgot that fight happened.
Well, I bet Sean Porter hasn't forgotten. I mean, Sean was moving around a lot more in that fight. I mean, because he's a super athletic guy. But I thought Ugas, he's tall. You know, he's like 5'9", I think. And Manny's like 5'5". So this is the sleeper fight of the year. It is. I got a good friend of mine who said Ugas going to knock Manny Pacquiao out. I didn't say anything because he could be right. I can't say that. I'm not. I wish I had a crystal ball and I look like a genius and go, yeah, that's exactly what's going to happen. So I could tease you guys about it next week. But
the Franco fight, so you know.
Well, this is what Pacquiao. See, I told you there has to be a few things that happen, and I said this last week. Pacquiao has a letdown with not fighting Errol Spence. That could happen. And Ugas is what Charles was describing. Ugas is one hungry dude. Ugas feels disrespected. He almost retired. He hasn't. He lost officially to Sean Porter, but let's say for argument purposes it was a draw. So if that was a draw, the man hasn't even lost a fight in 7 years.
Right.
Those were earlier in his career. I don't count those other losses. Those are done. He doesn't think about them. Fight fans shouldn't think about him. So he's got a legitimate shot. Is it 50-50? Damn good shot. I wish it wasn't pay-per-view because I don't see it as a pay-per-view fight. But it's a very intriguing fight in the sense that everybody is forgetting about Ugas. And that's when you're getting into dangerous territory. Because if we were sitting here talking about, I had this all planned out. I was going to say Manny Pacquiao is going to shock Errol Spence. I was going to say that. I had a feeling going into that fight that Manny was going to do it again, just like he did to Keith Thurman. It was just a feeling. This fight, I'm not having any feelings, but Ugas has got a much better chance than some people think. I mean, 50-50, no, well, maybe 51-49. I mean, you talk about a live underdog. You talk about a sleeper. You sleep on Ugas. Now, Pacquiao might blow him out in 1 or 2 rounds, but that's why we never know quite sure. We're never sure about these things. But if Ugas is Ugas, like he was against Sean Porter, he's that guy. He's fast, elusive, tall. He's got range. He's got height. He's got reach. He's going to give Manny Pacquiao some problems. Now, he's quicker, of course, even at 42. But I don't know. You know, this is a good one to. This is a good one where you can look like a genius or a fool, depending on what what way you want to go here, but I'll just say that Ugas is a big-time sleeper and a big-time live underdog, if he's an underdog. Boy.
All right, Charles. Now we're not. Well, hell, it is legal. I was going to say we're not condoning bet. Hell, it bet. I don't care. If you were a betting man, and I know that you dabble on occasion.
Me?
Charles? No.
Yeah, I've seen it happen before. That raindrop's going to fall faster than the raindrop. I've seen it.
He bets on horses. That's all.
It's almost like betting on human beings. But the idea of the way the public perceives something because of X. And X was, this isn't the fight that's supposed to be scheduled. This is just some replacement dude, blah, 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 blah.
Mm-hmm.
We know better than that. We may not know the whole story, but we know more of the story than just regular Jonas. As John said, would I go 50-50? I don't know. Is this a situation where the guy that no one expects, or the betting public, the regular public doesn't expect to win, has a really good chance? Or is that just we're hoping it happens that way because of history and circumstance and blah, 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 blah? Does you just have a really good chance, or is it just we're just saying that because we're trying to be contrary?
No, I agree with John. I think he does have a great chance. I think he comes in with a like you said, a strong pedigree. I mean, his records, he's fought a lot of decent guys. He has a lot of great experience. So, and then two, Pacquiao's older, man. That's the other thing. If Pacquiao was like 35, I might be like, Pacquiao is going to show this guy what time it is, and he might have something a little bit for him. But 40 plus, we saw the miracle with Thurman, and now he's trying to go back to the well.
Right.
That's why,
right.
I mean, not saying he can't do it. That's why I more or less probably have my doubts against Spence, because I'm like, yeah, Pacquiao can do a lot of stuff, but dude, Spence is a monster. Not take away.
Yes.
From him,
yes.
but,
Yeah.
And he's a young monster. That's the other thing too.
Right.
So, but no, I think that you guys has a legitimate chance because we don't know. But maybe if Pacquiao does not, I'm concerned about the letdown. I'm concerned about that because, you know, when you think about you guys, you go, yeah, we were ready. You got to change. You're getting ready for a southpaw. Now you're changing up. I mean, there's a few other little intricate details in there. And we just have to see. And I think Pacquiao is it's going to be one of those things, though, that it's going to be a moment or a couple moments where if you guys start going, boom, boom, and then it's like Pacquiao's like, everything we were working on and practicing on, staying away, moving around, that's out the door. And I think you're going to see Pacquiao just go for it. And the question is can you guys handle that? And can he overcome that barrage that we've seen so many times? And I think that's going to be the key. You guys is going to, Pacquiao is coming. Pacquiao is going to, I think he wants to show you, that's the other thing you mentioned too recently in the interviews, is that he wants to cement his legacy. He wants to show you, I'm the great guy I was, and I'm still Pacquiao, which means, translation, even if you don't speak whatever English, whatever language you speak, he's coming forward and he's going to be action-packed. Question is, will you guys be able to handle it? And maybe he can, because you guys is a banger. He's been in there, you know. As we mentioned, he kind of backed up Sean Porter, had him moving around a little bit. So maybe this is the beautiful thing is the old man going to show up? And if he doesn't, then can this other guy that's just as hungry go, that don't work here. You be Keith Thurman, but you keep getting older and older. And you think you'll come in here and just have your way? I don't think so. That's the beautiful, beautiful thing about it. But in regards to the betting thing, if it was me, not saying I will, but if it was somebody else's money, I would look at those odds, because I'm telling you, if they come up with some crazy odds, I mean, if and this is just hypothetical, do not bet. It's not good for you, because people bet their electric bill money. You can't handle it. Don't do it. It's wrong to bet. I'm telling you that. Don't do it. But if I was going to bet, I might look at taking $20 and finding out what the odds were for you guys winning a majority decision, or even you guys with a knockout.
I stopped you.
I take $20, and if you didn't feel good about either one, $10 here, $10 there, what the hell you got to lose? It's only $20. You never know. Anything can happen. And if it does, Give me a buzz. Give me a call. Send me an ice cream.
Give me a cut.
Give me an ice cream. If I was
All right, John. Now, okay, go ahead. I have a question for you.
It's just a quick one. Because I figured this would go there. I looked at the most recent odds on the fight. Pacquiao is almost a 4-1 favorite over Ugas.
Write that down.
I'm kind of thinking about this one myself, and I don't gamble very much. Total rounds 10 over 10 and a half rounds over minus 260. So I mean, whatever you want, man. Will the fight go the distance? No. You got choices, but the fact that he's almost 4-1, that'll come down by fight night. I'll probably be 3-1 or 2.5 to 1. But you get in there, and I'm not telling anybody to gamble because I'm not a big gambler either. But if you get in there right now, put $20 down on almost 4-1.
Yeah. Not bad.
Boy. So
you guys might want to start talking about this kind of stuff. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, it's hypothetical. It's fantasy.
Yes, exactly.
All fantasy.
Your life is a fantasy, so that doesn't make it real.
Look behind me.
All right, now we'll close with a couple serious things. They were both preparing, and this is what I don't think people understand, both preparing to defend their belts. Same time, same night, same everything. They were both, not same time, they were both preparing to fight on the same day in a title fight. Who has to make, or who will make the better, or is it even an adjustment to fighting a different person? So Pacquiao's supposed to be fighting Spence, he's fighting Ugas. I'm sorry, I don't remember who Ugas is supposed to be fighting, to tell you the truth. But now you got to adjust to Pacquiao. Which adjustment is going to be greater? Or do they make an adjustment? They both should be in shape because they're both fighting for or peaking for this day. John, first of all, who has to make the greater adjustment between who he was supposed to fight and who he's training to fight now?
I kind of think that it's Pacquiao because Spence is a southpaw, Ugas is not. Spence is taller, and so is Ugas. I'm stuck on that mental part. He's had all these months. He's been thinking I'm fighting Errol Spence. Now I'm fighting this guy.
Spence, right.
So that to switch over has got to be hard. And Ugas, he's got to be thinking, man. Everybody who's ever fought Manny Pacquiao says that when they get in the ring with him, they know he's fast, but they can't believe how fast he is when they get in the ring with him. Even the 42-year-old version. So I like what Charles said. Is he going to be the old Manny Pacquiao, or is he going to be an old Manny Pacquiao on Saturday night? That's the big thing. As far as I don't know as far as who because this all happens so fast. You usually have 6 to 8 weeks to prepare. Now you've had like a week, and just think about it. Think about basketball. You've been playing for 5.5, 6 weeks, 7 weeks. You've been preparing to go one-on-one against a lefty, and suddenly you're going against a righty. You've been, okay, I got to go. I'm going to lean over this way a little so he can't go on the left side because that's where his strong hand is, right? So now it's like, okay, I got that kind of figured. Now I got to completely change my mindset, go back over to the other way. And then Pacquiao also is a southpaw. So Ugas is facing him, and he's not faced any kind of speed like this. And he probably brought in, if it was me, I'd have brought in like a little bantamweight, super fast little guy to try to get Pacquiao's speed. But it's like a draw as far as I'm concerned. I don't think anybody really has an advantage. I think they're going to be learning as the fight goes what the other guys got. That it'll be like when you watch this is like a Floyd Mayweather love fest, but it's true. Floyd would take the first round and kind of size up his opponent, figure out what he's got, what his strengths and weaknesses are, and I love that. Because I think that's a real fighter. That's the sweet science. Right. I think that's probably going to happen here, unless Pacquiao thinks, hell with it, I'm going to try to knock him out in the first round, which I doubt. He doesn't do that as much as he used to do when he was young. But I think you're going to learn more in the first couple of rounds than you might have learned going into the fight because you didn't have any time to really get ready. So it's kind of a crapshoot in my view.
Now, this is funny because my brother and I, we've got an extensive tennis background, and we mentioned that the clay court season leads into the grass court season, leading to the hard court season. Some people excel because of different things and different ways they play, and we always laugh because we say you react to where the ball hits and then how it bounces and how you hit the ball. It doesn't really matter. The surface does matter, but once the ball bounces on clay, it's going to bounce on clay like that no matter what. And you're paying attention to the way the ball bounces, not the surface. So that translates to you're paying attention to the guy. You mentioned I'm guarding a guy that's right-handed, guarding a guy left-handed. I don't need 3 weeks to figure it out. I need to see him on the floor and go, oh, he's left-handed. I've already made the adjustment. So that's the idea I'm thinking of here. Now, Charles, correct me if I'm wrong. Will they immediately go, well, I'm not fighting Spence, I'm fighting this guy? Or will it be, oh, crap, I have to get used to Pacquiao when I wasn't getting used to Pacquiao? How long will it take to make that adjustment? Or will you make that adjustment for either one?
Well, I don't think it's going to take Pacquiao long. I think that they had a certain game plan for Spence because they were very leery of what Spence can do and what we've seen in the past, and the fact of what he's accomplished, and the fact that he was a taller guy and what you've seen him do, and he's a hell of a boxer. I think they were ready for that and trying to be ready to take their spots when they could. But with Pacquiao, I think when he's fighting you guys, I think, I'm not saying it's simpler, but I don't think that he's as much as concerned as he was against Spence, because I think he believes that he still has the talent. He has the wherewithal to beat somebody like Ugas. I really believe that. So I'm not saying they're letting it getting easing down a little bit, but he's like, I think I can just be Manny a little bit more than I was, and maybe not be as cautious early, as he would have been with Spence, trying to figure it out, see what works. And then, as you guys mentioned, the blueprint goes from there. Okay, now we're in round 3. If we make it that far, now we're going to go into what we were doing. You might see what happens with Ugas. And Ugas really on that level. But I think on the flip side of Ugas, I think Ugas is going to have to change it up a little bit, because you're fighting a guy before that wasn't of that caliber. And
right.
Granted, you're a tough fighter, but you're the champion, right? But we also know people think you got the belt just because you got a guy to by osmosis, and Pacquiao's painting that this is his belt anyway that they took from him and they gave it to you and you didn't win it.
Right.
So with that in mind, I think Ugas is like, even though he might say, yeah, I'm ready, I'm looking for this opportunity. Yeah, he has to change his mindset, because now you're stepping up to your level of competition, right? You get an opportunity that you've been waiting on. You think you got robbed out of the title opportunity with Sean Porter. Now this is your other opportunity to defend your title against one of the greatest of all time. So yeah, you're going to have to change. He's going to have to change his mentality and the way he goes about it. And hopefully he's learned from what he's endured before. The ironic thing about this, real quick, even though it was 100 years ago, you've been in the ring with some of the best, bro. So, hey, now you should know what it's like to be on championship caliber of fighters on that level. The bright light should not make him scared at all. He should be ready to fight. And if he is the truth as he say he is, I'm not saying he's going to win, but I think it is a great opportunity for Ugas to fight a 42-year-old Manny Pacquiao that may not have it all. I think it's all or nothing. You might as well go for it. You say you want another opportunity? Damn it, here it is. If he beats Pacquiao, man, imagine that. If he beats Pacquiao, the opportunities are going to open up for Ugas.
And Frank, real fast, I think the first round is real important for Ugas. Mm-hmm. How he starts. If he comes out and he hits Pacquiao with some punches, oh boy.
Yeah.
And I think that's important for him.
And to that end also, he has to be able to negate the speed. If he can do that right away, and say, you're not going to out-quick me, you're not going to out-fast me, I'm ready for that. If you can do that, now Manny's got to find something else. And as we've said, at 42, maybe he doesn't have something else. We won't
Yeah, and
know
he's
that.
he's not as reckless. Ever since he got knocked out by Marquez, if you watch, he
Right.
doesn't go in like that like he used to. So he won't be as reckless. But the reach advantage is Ugas is only 2 inches. He might be taller, but so he's going to have to duck and bob and weave, and he's so fast he can do it. But if Ugas gets off to a good start and wins the first couple of rounds, ooh boy.
Yeah, Ugas.
Yeah, Ugas.
All right, so in conclusion for this entire thing, we've come to a couple of things that we figured out. One, somewhere, somehow on the Ultimate Sports Network, we need a minor league boxing show. Let's call it that. So we can promote what's going on, get promoters, get fighters, get trainers, get these people involved before we get to this thing. Because I'm looking at the undercard here. And other than Ortiz Guerrero, I don't see a name that I know. Now
Right.
that's my fault. It's not their fault, but I don't see a name that I know. And we've got some decent records for some people here.
Oh,
I
yeah.
don't see anyone I know. Now that doesn't mean they can't fight. You know, we've got one guy in his debut fighting against somebody that's 1-1. That doesn't mean they can't fight. That doesn't mean it's not a fight worth watching. But we should know about that going into other than just the day of the fight. So that's something we need to come up with. I'm sorry, go ahead. Yeah.
I was just going to say, did you guys watch the greatest grandson in his debut Saturday?
I
Nico
did
Wash,
not, no.
Ali Wash. Did you watch it?
I
Look at Charles.
No. Yeah, I
Look at Charles is smirking down there. Okay,
Yeah.
Charles, what'd you think? I'll wait till after he says, yeah.
I'm gonna just say this. I mean, I was impressed. He looked well. I liked the way he threw it. Almost looked like he was watching Granddaddy's tapes a little bit.
Right.
And
Sure he was.
And that's fine. And he has a great trainer, right? He got a situation.
Sugar Hill, yeah.
Hill, right? I think that's great. But I'm gonna wait. I need to wait because the media is quick to, oh my God, he was okay. No, he wasn't.
I know.
No, he was. Give him a little time. Okay. They want to throw him out. And my and you know, I'm like, come on, man. The hype kills me, man. I mean,
I know, it's terrible.
I know they were going to do it, and he looked good for what he did, but we also must keep in mind who he fought. Okay.
Of course.
And I'm glad that he won. He looked impressive. He looked a lot more polished. Sugar, there are a lot of things, ingredients in line, but it's going to take time and steps. And the media jumped on it like you thought Ali, like Cassius Clay was the number 2 was coming out there. And that wasn't the case. So let's give it a little time, let him breathe. I know it's a legacy thing. It's all happy and everybody's excited. But the media is so damn desperate for something grand that they ran.
There are 2 ways this can go. And again, actually about 175, but the 2 ways it can go. You can have Archie Manning's kids who became Peyton and Eli, and now their nephew looks like he's supposed to be the next great thing come out of Louisiana, but we don't know. Or you could be Dale Berra, Yogi Berra's kid. Made the league, made the majors, but wasn't Yogi Berra. Or Mel Lott's kid, whatever, however you want to put it. There is a possibility that you can be what that was, the genes transfer. We see right now, Major League Baseball, we got Guerrero, we got Tatis, we got that. But it doesn't mean that you not only deserve the hype, but you should have to endure the hype right now. Let's let the kid do what he does. It's great that he's doing what he's doing and he's following the footsteps, blah, 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 blah. But let's let him find out if he can actually do something before we put him in with Mike Tyson after your 9th fight and you're in the corner going, please don't kill Marvis. You know, I don't think that's what we need to see. So.
Yeah, and real quick, yeah. I mean, I was watching and I that's why I liked it to Charles smirking because I was groaning. I was groaning at ESPN. I'm like, God, how many times are you going to talk about that he's wearing his grandfather's trunks? How many?
Right.
I mean, the kid seemed to be fine. He seemed to be eating it up. He seemed to be okay with it. And when they were chanting Ali, I'm thinking, they're really not chanting for you there, kid. You know, this is very nostalgic. People loved your grandfather. I mean, yeah, everyone was happy it was kind of a mixed bag happiness. You know, they're happy because it's an Ali fighting, and it brings back all these fantastic memories. He wanted him to win, and he threw some good shots in there. But it didn't mean, to me, it didn't mean anything. I mean, he didn't really have an amateur career to show. So unlike the Mannings, they were already good in college, Frank. So we knew that they would probably be good professional quarterbacks. Dale Barrow worked his way up, but of course his last name helped him. Nico didn't. I don't even know it. Nobody's even talking about his amateur record, so I don't know anything about it. But yeah, the ESPN was talking out of both sides of their mouth. They're cracking me up. They're saying, "There's this. He's using this. He's got the trunks. He's got the name. He's got the charisma." And then they're going, "We're putting so much pressure on the kid." And I liked it that Joe Tessitore said, "Well, we look at all the time we're giving it." And I'm like, "Wow, that was pretty honest." So come on. You know, let's see. The only way we're going to find out is when he fights.
And I'm gonna have to recount what I said. Okay, Marvis Frazier did fight, beat Joe Bugner, lost to Larry Holmes, beat James Quintillis and Bone Crusher Smith. So okay, so
he wasn't a bad pro.
He ended up being 19-2. His losses were to Larry Holmes and Mike Tyson.
First round.
So maybe that's just all right. But anyway, now that we've gone way past what I wanted to go.
Sorry, I had to throw that in there.
I add stuff that I shouldn't add. All right, so we went a little long today, but that's okay. We can be found where you find us and adding more stuff all the time. Ultimate Sports Network is adding more stuff. We're going to see if we're going to take seriously this idea of a quote unquote minor league boxing show, for the lack of a better way of putting stuff out there. Hey, it's fun. We're enjoying ourselves. Enjoy this fight. Enjoy this card. I would take, if I'm watching this card this weekend, I would take a critical look, not necessarily as far as what it means for the sport of boxing, but a critical look of two guys that we've seen fight, Guerrero against Ortiz, just to kind of get an idea of what's going on in them and what does boxing mean to them, which translates usually to what boxing means to us. I think it's going to be a very important thing to watch. Then obviously, you know, and I hate to use this phrase, but is Manny Pacquiao going to have his James Worthy moment where he went, "Oh, he's old now," where he happened a few months ago? It happens, and it's going to happen at some point. Is this it?
It could happen.
And can Ugas say, "Hey, look, dude, I was supposed to be here anyway. As Charles said, I'm used to overcoming all this stuff. What's one more obstacle? No big deal."
Yeah, so, that's why it's more intriguing that people are giving it for.
So thanks again, gentlemen. This has been fun as always. With the credentialed one down at the bottom there, take care of business. It's raining Monopoly money.
He's just throwing money around, that Charles.
He's throwing the same money though. It's $1. He threw the same $1 bill. I got pennies here. I'll do the same thing. I'll show you. I'm going to show you what I got. And on that note,